A Red Lipstick Club production. Hello, lovers and friends. Welcome back to the Red Lipstick Club. I'm your host, Anna Sierra, and here we chat about everything from love lives, sex, relationships, always from a very grown-ass perspective. Welcome to what I think is going to be an interesting topic to cover, mainly because this is something I personally dealt with and friends of mine have dealt with, and it comes with some stereotypes connected to it and some bias, and I'm curious to know how you feel about it. Make sure if you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, like the video, share it, leave me a comment at the bottom. Let me know how you're feeling about our topic today and maybe some other areas that you'd like me to cover. If you want to follow me on social media, visit us on Instagram at Official Red Lip Club and on Twitter at Official Red Lip. I'm excited to chat with you guys, excited to connect with you guys. Last week, I had a very interesting episode that I was personally covering, and it was something that I had dealt with in relationships, and it was the Peter Pan syndrome, or the failure to launch. And it was interesting for me to see how many men that I have personally interacted with fell into that category. And also for myself personally, some Peter Pan syndrome or failure to launch characteristics that I was actually exhibiting. And I had to take a little bit of personal inventory and accountability for that, because ultimately the goal is to be prepared for a relationship. And if you don't take stock and inventory into what you personally are contributing to the situation, the odds of you finding a result that you're happy with at the end are probably slim to none. So whether you decide to get into a relationship or you decide to remain single, let's just do so in a healthy fashion, right? This week, though, I wanted to talk about sex a little bit, and I really wanted to talk as a framework for women, especially women in their 30s and older, that are not necessarily looking for monogamous marriage relationships and are totally okay with being serial daters. And there has been a period in my personal life where I was totally okay with serial dating. If the first person didn't work out, I would be totally okay to move on to somebody else, and I really wouldn't think twice about it. It could be the Sagittarius in me that kind of has a bit of a mindset of I'll get over you with somebody else. That's not always the healthiest way to go about that, but does it happen? Yes. Are people always honest about them approaching dating life that way? Not really. So that's something that I really wanted to chat with my audience today and see how you guys felt about that. See how dating in your 30s and being sexually liberated about it, how that makes you feel, especially in a world that is extremely judgmental to women. So this week on my Instagram, I took some time. I sent out a few question poll posts, and let me just say, I'll be pulling up my phone. But one of the questions that I asked this week was about body count, because as you get older and especially if you haven't been married and you have spent a lot of time kissing a lot of toads to find a prince, you've probably done quite a bit of dating. And in this day and age, it is a lot easier to be sexually involved with somebody because fortunately for some, unfortunately for others, we live in a hookup society. So hooking up with people and that body count increase, it does impact the dating women of today. I know when my mom was growing up, you typically first off got married really young, and you usually stuck with your high school sweetheart or whatever the case may be till, body count was definitely looked down upon. I don't even know if they even thought women had real body counts back then. Men could have 1 million. My dad could have slept with everyone in his entire college and nobody would have said anything. And I think that that's unfortunate that women do not have that same liberation of their bodies. It's just unfortunate that we get stereotyped and stigmatized because you decide to explore a little bit more. But I asked if if a guy would hold that against a woman for her body count. I said, does a woman's body count matter? And I saw that roughly 73% of people that answered said no, which is interesting to me. And I love that. I love that. I didn't see a high percentage of people saying that it did matter, but I am curious to those that did say that the body count matters. And I'm curious, why to you does it matter? If this person is personally committed to you right now, how does what they did in their past, especially if they're coming to you healthy with no drama and no issues, how that impacts you? I'm very curious, and I would like to know, like, if it's something that bothers you, if you're someone that's bothered by a person's body count, let me know in the comments why you feel that way, and would it deter you from dating somebody if you knew that? You do find that women tend to lie more about what their body count is because there is a lot of times a stigma. I'm also wondering too how many people were actually honest when answering that question. I would be curious to know. I also asked, do you think women are judged more harshly for serial dating? And I have to say, I don't know if men receive it as much as women do, but I feel that men are given a time period when they're younger to sow their wild oats, and they're encouraged to do so. And for a lot of women, women are encouraged to find a husband and get married. And I think when we don't deliver the same sexual liberation message to both men and women, that we are continuing to feed into this patriarchal system that we currently live in. And I just don't think that's going to work anymore when we have women running for Fortune 500 companies. I just don't see it. And for a lot of those women, they don't really have the time to support a husband a lot of times, or even children. And I'm wondering, at what point are we going to normalize women maybe just dating, and maybe they won't have kids, or they'll just be dating, and maybe they just won't get married? Because I would have to say for myself, the pressure and stress of not being married can become overwhelming and mildly depressing. And I don't think about it really as much until I have somebody ask me why I'm not married, or you're so pretty. Why are you not in a relationship? And I guess I could just get in one if I wanted to, and maybe I would have terrible sex in that relationship. I'm sure there's a few of those I could jump in right now. But do I want that? And as you've learned yourself more and you've explored your own body and your own needs and wants, to get into something just to get into it doesn't really seem like the move for me personally. I just do not see myself spending the rest of my days unhappy to prove a point to someone that I could get a husband. I don't know. I'm curious, if you are a single woman over 30 and you're in the same situation, maybe you don't have any children, or you're not looking to get married, do you feel like a constant judgment from people? Do you feel like everyone's always wondering or asking, why are you not married? Why don't you have a husband? And how does that make you feel? Are you frustrated by that? Do you feel like it kind of puts you in a position within your circles where there's girlfriends that won't invite you to certain events because you're the single friend? And I guess maybe they can't trust husbands around single women. I don't know why, but hey, okay. I don't think I'm wrong with that, but I do feel like single women are kind of left out of events and not invited to things because they're single. And that's unfortunate that we kind of put single women in a box like that and just assume the worst, or just assume they don't want to be a part of it because they don't have a husband or they don't have children. So if you are a married person out there and you're not inviting your single friends to the same things you're inviting your married friends to, think about that. Even when you're having like what you say double dates or like couples dinner dates, maybe your single friend is totally okay with coming and being single. Maybe they have no problem not being coupled, but they'd like to enjoy your company with everybody else, and they don't just want to only hang out with the girls, or maybe only hang out with the guys. Give people some credit. Give people more credit than that. I think that's just really important as we progress as just human beings in general. Just think about that sometimes, right? So I was also thinking I wanted to do a little research because you know I love to do my research when it comes to just relationships in general. And I wanted to look up 8 facts about love and marriage. And I love the Pew Research reports because they're really clear and concise and they give really great information. And what I actually thought was interesting is one of the areas they covered is that remarriage is actually on the rise. So in 2013, 23% of married people had actually been married before, compared to with just 13% in 1960. So you're seeing a lot of people totally okay with not only getting married, divorcing, but trying out love again. And that kind of gives you hope if you are a woman in your late 30s and older. You're probably going to be running into a lot of people that have already been divorced, so it doesn't like kind of cut you out of options. It's not as taboo anymore to get remarried. So if you're interested in that, that is something to think about. But they were also talking about in marriages why some women are choosing not to is because they don't want to be stuck in a sexless marriage. And I hate to say it, but I know quite a few married couples where they get married and then they're no longer asking those questions of their partner sexually. What drives you? What can I do for you sexually that would keep you fulfilled? And then it starts to be things like you get a blowjob on your birthday and stuff. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm just like, yikes, like that's what we've come to. So I can see why so many people now are kind of just looking at marriage, monogamous relationships and thinking maybe I just want a serial date and get what I need and keep it moving. And companionship ends up being fulfilled by just really good friendships, because now more than ever, there are other single people just like you that don't have the same commitments at home, and you can spend time with them. And I don't know, I just think it's interesting to think about the concept in that way. I don't know. What do you guys think? Maybe? I was thinking the other day about what my life would be like if I guess, chose to just marry the first person out of high school. And would I still be married now? And I told myself I doubt it. I probably would definitely be divorced. I don't think it would have worked. I didn't know very much about myself inside and out. I would really have struggled with that. And even in some of the long-term relationships I've had since then, I hate to say it, but that the sexual chemistry has become a bigger thing for me. On top of, I guess, the security factor, but security for me is that you can ultimately take care of yourself. That's not necessarily take care of me, but be able to take care of yourself. So I don't know. It's something to think about. I want to continue to push that conversation of the judgment towards women when it comes to things like sex, having those conversations, not putting women in a box, giving them the opportunity to flourish and to grow and to express themselves in a real way. And also just making it comfortable for single women and married couples to exist in the same space. Because I'm curious if the people that said they cared about a woman's body count were married people, or if they were single people saying that. That's always something that I've thought about, and I'm like, man, I wonder if those people that are concerned about a woman's body count, if they feel that way. And also too, you think about dating, how quickly people are ending relationships. They're not necessarily dating for marriage anymore. So, like I said before, when you think about that body count, I mean, at some point, I think people just start honestly forgetting some people, because it was just like one time and they kept it moving. I do find, though, as I get older and you are spending time with older gentlemen, that they get a lot more attached to sex. And if you are a woman that's kind of like, okay, that's fun, they get really sensitive about that whole scenario. And I will tell you, I was blocked for the first time in my life by a guy that wanted, I guess, way more than what I was even assuming it would be. And I almost felt like a man. I felt like I was living life as a man in that moment because I had no desire to have more. And apparently he did. And he got very emotionally invested very quickly. So I don't know. I'm thinking maybe women, as we get more independent, are we kind of losing some of that emotional tug that we have, or emotional connection that we have to sex, and it starts to become a little bit more transactional for us? Does it? Do you find yourself, women listening to this, are you finding sex to feel just a little bit more transactional for you as you become more independent, taking care of a lot of things on your own, having, I guess, more encounters on a loose base? Like, do you find yourself just not as emotionally invested, and finding maybe some of the men that you're dealing with are a lot more emotionally invested earlier on than you? I'd be curious to know how you're feeling about that. But either way it goes, I don't know. It's a great topic. I want to continue to talk about it. It's just something that I wanted to discuss this week. Let me know if you're listening to us on Apple, leave a comment in there, rate the podcast. That definitely helps me to push out my content. And also, if you're listening on Spotify, same thing. If you guys rate it, if you leave a comment, that really helps me to push it. I'm trying to do as much as I can to, I guess, give a platform to women that's not judgmental and allows for you to really think about where your place is in this world after 30. Because we don't just go to a cabin in the woods and die. And I'm certainly not going to take on the label of spinster that they try to give you, which I have seen that label try to be put on me. Are you going to be a spinster? Hopefully not. But I certainly will not connect my self-worth to a relationship. And I'm hoping that the man that I get with respects that and is thankful that he has a woman that thinks that way. You guys, thank you so much for listening, tuning back in. Make sure if you are watching on YouTube that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like the video, share, leave a comment. And if you are listening on a podcast station near you, leave a comment for me, rate it, share it with your friends if they just need some listening on the road and want to spark up a conversation. I'm hoping people will use this podcast as a means to spark conversations within your group of friends. I've always been the type of person that wanted to come up with like a topic or a theme to talk about at dinner parties. And I always sometimes would be a little scarce for topics. So use my podcast, use my podcast as a jumping off point. It's great to talk about things like that at dinner parties and say, hey, I'm listening to a podcast, and use me as the material. You know that I'm always going to give you a few facts in here so you can come with the gusto and actually show them who's boss at your next dinner party. We'll see. Until then, you guys, though, always remain booked, busy, blessed. I will see you guys next time. Peace.